Hello and welcome back to Marineford TCG. I'm Joe, and today we're continuing to look at Set 9. Set 9's coming out in just a couple of weeks for us in the West. So today we've got green cards. I will say, a little bit of a preamble. Unfortunately, the green cards aren't quite as good as the red cards. If you've seen the other video, don't expect any quite as big numbers. But either way, I'm going to be a little more generous than perhaps I should with some of these. But without any further ado, let's get into the ratings. So if you want to understand what these mean a bit better, check out the red video. I go into a bit more depth on these. You can pause here and read, but we're just going to move on. So Lim is the leader for green. She is a green-purple leader for life. Your Odyssey type. Your characters enter play as rested. That's big. That's really bad. That's really bad effect. It means your opponent can immediately start attacking into your dudes. And that is the main reason why she's only got a 2-star rating. Full life and hard to control your keep your own board alive is tough. It's really tough. But Lim's other effect is insane. Activate main once per turn. You can rest 3 Don, so you pay 3 for this. You ramp a Don rested, and then you play a 5 cost or less Odyssey character from your hand. It does obviously come in play rested, but this is a really strong effect. This is not 100 million miles away from Vegapunk's effect. It's obviously not as good as that, but Lim can attack. And she has more starting life. Not more life overall. We know how Vegapunk plays. But this effect is insane. And she needs this drawback if your character's coming into play rested. Otherwise, this would be a really good aggro deck. So, the way that people are typically building Lim is you're gonna ramp twice with this leader effect. You're not playing any other ramp cards. Although you could if you really want. And then you're going to play big boss guy. And the 2 big boss guys that people are playing are the 9-cost Zoro that attacks 3 times. Just really nice for the keep up the aggro potential of this deck. And the other one is Kaido Linlin. Because ramping to that card doesn't matter that it comes in rested. Your opponent's not attacking into a 12k dude. They're just not. And ramping to that is strong. And there are some combos with that we'll go over later that make that somewhat more compelling. However, Lim is not topping. Lim's won like a flagship or 2. It's definitely a rogue deck. I'll give her 2. It's not complete bulk, but it's definitely a rogue deck. One of the best cards in the deck, though, is this Lim. She's a 3/5 searcher with the Odyssey type. Great stat line, similar to cards like Lilith. And on play, you look at the top 5 for an Odyssey card other than Lim, put it in your hand. Keeping it simple, but she has another effect. End of your turn, if you have 3 or more rested characters in play, you can set her as active. So, this is quite nice, right? The general gameplay, you're going to go first, right? Let's say you go first. Your 1 Don turn, you pass. Your 3 Don turn, you're going to play out something for 3. Your next turn, you're going to play out something else for 3. Swing with the character that hopefully stuck around. And then with the remaining 3 Don, you can play Lim. And then at the end of that turn, you will have 3 rested characters. So Lim can stand herself up to at least give you a little bit of protection. And there are other cards in this color, in this archetype, that restand. But this card is very strong. This restand effect is also good after that first turn, right? Because you can attack with her and then she just restands herself, so she can't be attacked into, which is good. Nothing bad to say about this card. I've given it 3 because it is honestly one of the defining cards of the Lim archetype. Although the Lim archetype isn't very good. You could give this 2 if you want. But honestly, if I was just giving everything in Lim 2, it'd be a very boring video. So I've decided to make the distinction that this is a better card than most of the Lim stuff. We've got Adio. He is the boss monster of Lim. He's a 9/9, no counter, Odyssey type. On play, if your leader has the Odyssey type, which Lim does, you restand 3 Don. Now that's great. This is a 6/9 effectively. Obviously it does come in rested, but you know, a 6/9 is no joke. And on your opponent's attack, once per turn, you can rest a Don as a 2k. Which is really nice, because one of Lim's weaknesses, right, is your card advantage. You got 4 life, and you're constantly spending cards to help your guys not die. So getting to have a 2k, just for 1 Don, no cards needed, is pretty good. This is one of the defining cards of the Lim archetype. You're going to be playing 4 of these in your Lim deck. It's your alternative boss monster to whatever other actual boss monster you're playing, be that Zoro or be that Linlin. This is a great play on 9 exactly. You can play this out, restand 3, and use those 3 for your leader effect to play a 5 cost. Quality. You won't have 1 for your Adio effect. You know, it is what it is. This card's good. This card is a staple in Lim. I'm giving it the 3, perhaps being a bit generous, but I'm giving it 3. I don't care. It's also kind of hard to attack into, right? Even though it becomes rested. 9k is a pretty big stat line, especially when you're ramping twice. Usopp. Now we get into the bulk of the Lim cards. Pretty much everything in this set is for Lim. That's why on these slides, you're just going to see a big Lim. 4-5, Odyssey, Straw Hat Crew, 1k counter, on play if you have 2 or more rested characters, which you probably will unless this is the first guy you play. Draw 2, trash 2. It's fine, it's not great. I don't love these 5k bodies in Lim. I really like the 5-6 bodies. Just because they're that little bit harder to attack into. Your opponent's actually got to dedicate something beyond leader swing, or like Jinbei swing, to try and deal with them. Yeah, this Usopp's fine, it gives you a bit of cycle, it helps the consistency. Some people are taking this in Lim. I don't think it's amazing, but it's probably in Lim for now because she doesn't have that many good cards. If you've seen the set 10 reveals, we're getting tons more Lim cards. I'm kind of excited to try this in set 10. But yeah, I've given Usopp that 2-star rating. He's played in the rogue deck that is Lim, but he's not a defining part of it, so I'm just giving him 2. Next up, we've got Crocodile. He's a 4-5-1k, Odyssey, 7 Warlords, and Baroque Works. I don't think you're playing this in any 7 Warlords or Baroque Works type decks, but here we are. If your leader has the Odyssey type, this character cannot be KO'd in battle by leaders. This is similar to the 2-cost Uta, that is a stage, basically, in Lucci. But I think this is actually pretty nice. If this is your first guy you play, it acts similarly to Atlas in Vegapunk, where your opponent just kind of can't deal with this. You can also get some noob swings on people that are trying to kill Croc, and then you just go, okay. Which is pretty funny. I think this is probably like a 2 or 3 of in Lim. Really nice early game, not so good late game. Once your opponent develops characters, this rapidly loses value. But, you know, he's here, it's fine. That's why I'm giving it that 2-star. It's not bulk, but it's close. Sakazuki, I think, is bulk for now. I can see this having potential in the future, however. This is a 6-7, no counter, unfortunately. This had counter. I think I'd maybe give it a 2. But anyway, on play, you have 2 or more rested characters in play, you KO a 5. A 6-cost that KOs a 5 is great. It's great, and it doesn't have to be a rested 5, right? But you do have to meet this other condition. He's Odyssey Navy. Are you playing this in Isho? Probably not. But you could. There's not even a green Navy searcher, though. Although you can search for him with the black ones. But anyway, we're getting off tangent. Isho sucks. Are we playing this in Lim? Maybe. Probably not. Lim's not really a board removal deck until you get to the Kaido Linlin. I think I'd rather just do something else. And because this is 6-cost, you can't play it with leader effect, which does really suck. You've got to actually dedicate 6 dons to this guy, which I'm not a huge fan of. I've played with it. I don't think it's very good. I've given it 1 star. Sabo, I've given 2 stars. This is one of the better cards in Lim of the non-crazy cards. He's a 5-6 1k Odyssey Revo Army, and when attacking once per turn, if you have 3 more rested characters in play, you draw a card. It's just good. You go first, you play this on 3. On 6, you play something else with the leader effect. You play Lim Searcher. That's 3 dudes. You swing with Sabo. That becomes your 3rd rested character when you swing with it. So you get the draw, and then at the end of the turn, you get to restand your Lim. The combos are there, right? The combos are there for Lim. Just not consistent enough. It's just not consistent enough. You don't have enough good plays. You're having to fill your deck with, like, not very good plays. Sorry, that's a stupid way to phrase it, but here we are. This Sabo's fine. Hard to attack into on that first turn for your opponent, or second turn for your opponent. Card's good in Lim. It's not crazy. If this wasn't printed, Lim wouldn't be majestically better or worse. But, you know, I'm giving him that 2. It's not bulk. Sanji is also not bulk. I've given he is a 5-6 1k Odyssey Straw Hat Crew. On KO, you may add the top or bottom card of your life to your hand, so you damage yourself. And then you play a 4 or lower Odyssey or Straw Hat Crew from your trash as rested. I think it's a real shame this comes in rested. Because you've got to take a life, I think this could come into play active. Obviously in Lim, it would enter play rested anyway. But in other decks, I don't know why this guy's got this rested tag. It kind of sucks. I've given a small nod to Chopper, because you can summon this red Chopper. This isn't green locked or anything. So you can summon this, which is pretty cool. But generally, you're going to see this in Lim. You're going to play this out early, and when it gets killed, you're going to summon either the Searcher or this blocker Rosinante that we're going to get onto a bit later. The 4 costs themselves kind of suck. The best one's probably that Usopp that we looked at, but these 3 costs are pretty good. I'd give Sanji 2. It's in Lim. It's pretty staple in Lim. But it's not a great card. Small nod to Chopper. You could play it here if you really want to. You can also summon Brook, I guess, which is pretty cool. You can summon Brook from Rested and then use Brook to play out Chopper. I wish I'd thought of that when I was making these slides. Hey ho. This is bulk. 3/4 1k Tony Chopper. Odyssey Animal Straw Hat Crew. End of your turn, set one of your Odyssey type characters with the cost of 4 or less as active. I don't care. The good Odyssey characters are 5, except for Searcher Lim, who restands herself, and Rosinante Blocker, who restands himself. I don't care for this Chopper. This is terrible. His lore, he's also pretty terrible in my opinion. He's a 3/4 Odyssey Supernova Heart Pirates. I guess you could play this in a Supernova Cut type deck, but it's locked to Odyssey characters. Here's an on play, you may return one of your characters to your hand, play a 3 cost or lower Odyssey character other than lore from your hand. Every single lore card has to just be shambles. Really boring. Bandai, come up with a new effect for lore cards. They're all the same, other than like that one blocker lore. But yeah, this card's not great. It basically says pick up Lim Searcher and put her back down again for a free search. But the body sucks. 3/4's terrible. At least it's got counter. If this was a 2k, I'd maybe play this. Yeah, we've just got better cards. Like this Doflamingo. So I think this card's actually pretty good, not just in Lim, but also in Grape Dofi. So this Doflamingo is a 5/6, he's a 1k. Odyssey, 7 Warlords of the Sea, Don Quixote Pirates. Blocker, 5/6 blocker. You know, we said it before with Rayleigh. This is just great stat line. Sharker, Queen, Kid, Rayleigh, now Doflamingo. Good stat line, can't complain. End of your turn, you have 2 more rested characters in play, restand him. It's great, what's not to love? On that, if we're following that curve that we were talking about earlier, your first turn you play out the Sabo, second turn you play out Doflamingo with leader effect, and then play out Lim with your remaining 3 Don. End of your turn, you can restand Lim because you have 3 rested characters, then you can restand Doflamingo because you still have 2 rested characters. Then all that's rested is a Sabo. Great, good effect. This is what Lim needs. A blocker that restands itself and is bigger than the leader. This is one of the best cards in the deck. And this also, I think, has potential in Grape Dofi. Maybe not right now, but in next set, once we get the Dofi Taro, that plays out a 5 cost Don Quixote Pirates type card. I think this is one of the better targets, you know. Being able to attack with it and then just restand it is great. Obviously, that's true for Lim as well. This isn't limited to negating the enter player's rested effect. You can attack with this guy and then just stand him back up. This lets him get around Birdcage, which is very notable because that's often your game plan with Grape Dofi, is playing around this Birdcage card. And obviously, he's a 5 cost that can restand himself though, so pretty good. I've given this a 3-star. I think this is one of the best cards in Lim, and I think this has potential for the future, so I think it warrants 3. This Rosinante, I think, is solidly 2. He's a 3/4, 1k counter, he's a blocker, Odyssey, Navy, Don Quixote Pirates. We're only playing this in Lim. I've put Dofi here. I don't think you're playing this in Dofi. However, when your opponent attacks, once per turn, you can activate him. So, your opponent can just attack into him, which is not great, but if they don't, then they attack your leader. You can restand him and block a hit. Get down, Mr. President. It's fine. It's also another 3 cost that you can play on that weird 6 Don or 7 Don turn, where you're using your leader effect and you've got some Don left over. This is probably the second best thing to play for 3, other than the Lim Searcher, of course. Solid card in Lim. Definitely not above a 2 because it's only in Lim and Lim is obviously Rogue. I don't think it's going in Grape Dofi. I just thought I'd put him here for clarity. Nico Robin is one of the centerpieces of one of the 2 builds of Lim. So in the Zoro build, you're not really playing this. This doesn't do a whole lot. But in the Kaido Lin Lin build, this is your combo piece, right? So Kaido Lin Lin, if you're not familiar, is a 10/12. When attacking, you Don -10, KO all other characters, then you heal a life and trash one of your opponent's life. And then you're swinging 12 still. What Robin does is, she's a 4/5, 1k, Odyssey Straw Hat Crew. On play, if you have 2 or more rested characters in play, till the end of your opponent's next turn, all of your characters with Odyssey or Straw Hat Crew can't be KO'd by effects. So you can see how this works, right? It's similar to Sabo in the King deck for the King combo. It's not quite as good because we can't use Black Maria because she just gets destroyed. But Nico Robin with a ramped out Kaido Linlin, pretty good. You get to keep your board, your opponent loses theirs. I mean, it's pretty good. It basically reads win. If you get this combo off, you just win. And it's probably more reliable in this than it is in King. This is obviously unsearchable, this big Linlin. But because your ramp is so much easier, you're not relying on seeing Island. And you've still only got 1 unsearchable card because the Sabo is unsearchable in King. So it's whatever, right? You're missing 1 unsearchable card. And this is still decent, even if you're not doing this Linden combo. Into black decks that want to KO your dudes, you can just play out a couple dudes, play Nico Robin, and then they can't be KO'd by effects. Pretty nice. Not crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if this does see play in the future as well, in a Straw Hat Crew green deck. We don't really have a good one right now. We have red-green Luffy and green-blue Sanji, I believe are the only ones. Sanji sucks, and red-green Luffy is just outclassed by lore. But in the future, if we get like a mono-green Straw Hat leader, I think this could see some play. I've given it that 2-star. It's staple in one of the 2 Lim builds, and I do think it has something to say for the future. Now, this is one of the more interesting cards. This is Perona. This is not an Odyssey support. Thank God, nice break from Odyssey. She is a 1/2 2K, liking it. She has the Shikado Kingdom and Thriller Bark Pirates types. Very clearly designed as a card for green-black Perona. And what she does is, on play, you look at the top 5, reveal a Thriller Bark Pirates type card, or a Mihawk, and add it to your hand. Then you bottom the rest, and then you trash one from your hand. So this isn't hand neutral like other searchers. And I think I know why. I mean, the stats are great for a 2K. Don't forget this is a 2K. This is one of the better 2K. This is a 2K searcher, right? You're competing with things like, what's he called? The film guy, Buena Festa, and the Odama from OP09. There's not many 2K searchers. So that's good. So I think why this trashes a card is twofold, right? Obviously, you're black. You can resummon things from your grave with Gecko Moria and other effects, Rebecca. So it's nice to have things in trash. You can trash no counter cards like this Ryuma, maybe a Lucci, things like that. But I think the main reason why this trashes a card at the end is because of the stage. The Thriller Bark stage, you probably don't remember this. This is bulk. This is a 1-cost stage that has activate main. You can tap 1 Don and rest the stage. If your leader has Thriller Bark Pirates type, which we do if we're playing Perona, you can play a 2-cost or lower Thriller Bark Pirates type character, which Perona is, from your trash rested. So if this was just +1, you could summon this every single turn with stage for 1 Don to just go up a card, which would be ridiculous. I do think that would be insane. As it is, it's a cycle. It's kind of like a German Kingdom with extra steps. Slightly better German Kingdom with extra steps, but it does cost 1 Don. So I'm not sure this is going to be a good combo. I think if you didn't have to trash a card, this would probably be too strong. But as it stands, unsure. Needs experimentation. You can then use that with Shadows Asgard to do the Shadows Asgard meme where you buff your leader during your opponent's turn to make him big. I don't think it's going to happen, but you could. So what are we searching with Perona, right? So I think this does give Perona leader the opportunity to become more of a Thriller Bark Pirates type deck, as opposed to what it's been for the most of its life, which is a Wano deck. Right at the start, it was sort of a Navy type, Navy Doflamingo deck, and now it's much more Wano with the Momo and the Otama, being able to search out Ryuma. Now that we've got a Thriller Bark searcher that can get Ryuma, this can also get Gecko Moria. This is one of the 2 cards in the game that can search Gecko Moria. The other is the Sengoku searcher. Or two good cards in the game. There might be some other ones that search for Warlords. But either way, this is a good search for Gecko Moria. And Perona is playing Moria. Perona loves Moria. You can also search all these other dudes. Sindri's another 2K. You can search this Mihawk 2K. And this Mihawk 2K can actually play out Ryuma, which is kind of funny. You can search out Perona, Hogback, Absalom. All these cards that we've seen as staples in Gecko Moria. I think this has potential. I'm not convinced, don't get me wrong. Perona is a 4-life leader, and green-black isn't the most synergistic typing, but being able to search Ryuma and Moria with one card, I'm interested in it. I probably will try this on the sim at some point, once we get this card. And there's also more Thriller Bark stuff coming out in the next set. There's an Odyssey Perona that works reasonably well with your leader effect. And there's also just some 4-cost Thriller Bark dudes that you can summon back with Moria. I'm interested in trying this with the stage to just get constant cycles with this Perona. But I've given it 2 for experimentation because nobody's played this out in Japan. Probably because it's bad, but you never know. Maybe they've just missed something. Next up, we've got Ace. This is a 2K Odyssey, 5/5 Whitebeard Pirates and Odyssey type. On play, if you have 2 more rested characters in play, you rest a 5. Effects, very bang average. Stat line is not great, but it's a 2K. A 2K, you will play it in Lim because it's a searchable 2K, and the effect isn't bad. This isn't a card like a Pooh where you're never going to play him. This is a card where you're not excited to play it, but it's fine, right? You can play him with leader effect as a 3/5. It's not the end of the world. I've given it a 2. You could argue this is a 1 if you like, because you're not thrilled to play this. But resting a 5 is fine. You can rest a blocker if you're going for game. In that respect, it's fairly similar to Usohachi. Costs 3 Don with leader effect to rest a 5. You do have to have something else rested already, but I think this is fine. I think this card is 2. Who else is 2? Well, we've got Monkey D. Luffy here. He's a 5/6 Odyssey Supernova Straw Hat Crew, 1k counter. On play, if you have 2 or more rested characters, are you seeing a theme? Choose one of your opponents, cost 6 or lower characters, or one of their Don and rest it. Card's really good, really underrated in Lim specifically. Could you play in something else? Maybe, I don't know, Supernova, you can maybe play it in Green Yellow Law. You can maybe play it in Red Green Law. Probably not. He is a 5 cost, so you could play him with Shambles leader effects. I don't think it's great in there, but in Lim, this is a good card. You can play this out for 3 with leader effect. And resting a 6 or lower character is fine. Very similar to the Ace we just looked at. Resting a Don, though? Now, that's interesting, right? 2 big cards in the format that want their Don. Bonnie wants a Don for a leader effect. You can just go, nope, none of that. I'm going to attack with everything. Or purple Luffy decks holding 1 up for Gum Gum Giant. Obviously, they can play around this by holding up 2, but then they're playing pretty inefficiently. Bonnie quite often is doing plays that leave them with 1, so having to hold 2 to get around this Luffy is very awkward for them. And purple Luffy generally can leave up 2, but they don't really want to, right? Because they want to be swinging into your dudes, especially if they're all 6k power. So I think this card is really good in Lim. I've given it that 2. It's not deck defining, but it's a solid staple 4-off. This is Rob Lucci. He's a 4/6 vanilla Odyssey CP9. Card's terrible. I'm not playing this. I'm not interested. So we're on to the events, and this event I think is, if nothing else, interesting. It's a 1-cost event. Get ready for this one. Gum Gum Quattro Mano Jet Cross Shock Bazooka. What a name. Odyssey Straw Hat Crew counter. If your opponent has the Odyssey, if your leader has the Odyssey type, and you have 2 or more rested characters in play, one of your leaders or characters gains 2,000 for the turn. It's like a double White Snake, right? This is interesting. This gives Lim some pretty crazy defense. It's going to be hard for your opponent to go for game if you've got a Gum Gum Quattro Mano Jet Cross Shock Bazooka in your hand. Say that 10 times fast. I don't think it's amazing. It costs 1 Don, and it's a card. Lim needs all the cards she can get. And your Don curve is usually pretty efficient, but I guess late game you can maybe hold 1 up. I don't know. The trigger is KO Arrested 4, which is pretty good. KO Arrested 4 is fine. Don't love it, don't hate it. I'm not playing this in my Lim list at the moment, but I do want to mess around with it, give it a go. So I've given it that 2. You can give it 1 if you like. I don't think this card's that bad, though. This is obviously leader locked, so you're only playing it in Lim. Next up, we've got Thunderlance Flip Pound Phoenix Shot. All these events have a terrible name, and even worse are, like, look at this. This is horrible. What's happening here? This is a 3-cost event. Activate main. If you have 2 or more rested characters in play, KO a 4. This is horrible. This condition is really not great. Obviously, Lim's going to have those. But 3 Dom to KO a 4 with a condition is so bad. You compare it to some other cards, right? Compare it to Finger Gun. This is just upside. This is a 4-5. 4 that KOs a 5. Guaranteed. You don't have this stupid condition. And you get to mill 2, which is great. And the trigger on this is Rest a 4. Trigger on Finger Gun is Kill a 5. It's miles better. And you got Helm Blaze over here. This is a 2 cost that bottoms a 2. Which you might be thinking, okay, that's fairly comparable. In fact, that might be a little bit weaker. But you also get 3000 power, right? This is way understated. If this was a 3 cost that KO'd a 5, I don't know, I probably still wouldn't be playing it, but I'd be more interested. Either way, this is bulk. This is probably the worst green card. It's probably even worse than the vanillas. But yeah, not a fan of the Thunderlance Flip Pound Phoenix Shot. Last up, we've got Soul Frankie. Swing Arm Boxing. Solid. I don't know what to... I guess these are caps because Frankie's shouting Frankie Boxing. And someone else is doing the Swing Arm... Soul Swing Arm Solid. I don't know. These events are goofy. I've not played this game. If you've played this game, you know the lore, the fuck's going on. Let me know in the comments. As this is a 1 cost event, counter, one of your leader or characters gains 2000 for the battle. Then, if your leader has the Odyssey type, and you have 2 more rested characters, and if you heard that before, set 2 of your characters as active. I think this is okay. I think it's very comparable to that other event we looked at, the Gum Gum Quattro Mano Jet Cross Shock Bazooka. That's obviously much more of a defensive event for your leader. This is more of a defensive event for your characters. But if your opponent does like one of those cheeky plays where they go 5 life, to see what you'll do, whether you'll take and then they go life, or you counter and then they go board, you can get out of that and restand your board, tunneling them into going at life, which is pretty cool. This is fairly comparable to something like Spider's Web, which is a $2 event that gives something 4k and then you restand 1 character. This compares pretty favourably to Spider's Web, but is obviously leader locked, and the trigger is worse. The trigger on this is just Rest a 4. The trigger on Spider's Web, it gives your leader 2000 power for the turn. I'm going to give this a 2 for experimentation. You can give this a 1 if you like. I wouldn't hate you for it. But yeah, I think the Soul Frankie Swing Arm Boxing Solid does have some potential in Lim. So, thank you for watching. That was all the green cards in set 9. I think you can understand what I said when I was at the beginning. I was like, these cards aren't as good as the red ones. I think green's been done a little bit dirty. I like what they were going for with Lim. I really do. I just don't think they're quite there. I think once we get set 10, we get some of those other cards for Lim. She's got more potential. I do think your highlight card is probably the Doflamingo, because that can go in Grape Dofi. Or maybe the Perona, just because it looks really fun. But yeah, I think most of these cards are pretty bad, unfortunately. Green gets another bad set. Who could have predicted that one? But anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know where I'm wrong in the comments. If you want to see the rest of the colours, blue will be up in a couple of days now. I'm going to take a short break for some commentary videos, and then we'll be back with blue. So make sure you subscribe if you want to see that. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.